So there are really four types of people that we speak with at Electrifying Australia. The first kind of person is they just keep paying for electricity rate hikes year after year after year, and they're not even aware like how much they've been typically. They just kind of pay the bill, just comes out of their account. The electricity company just has access to their account and just takes it out every month. And every year they increase it. They've increased them by around 9 to 11% per year over the last 5 years on average. Although in 2022, from 2020 to 2023, they increased the rates by up to 30%. And then 10 years ago, they increased them by 8% on average. Over the last 10 years, they've increased them by 8% on average. So there's those kinds of people, and that ends up costing them quite a bit over time because they just don't have their own on-site generation and storage. They have to rent their electricity from the old wooden poles and wires instead. So there's those types of people. And then the second type is the kind of person that shops around, looks into it, but they never actually make a commitment to actually get a solar and battery system. And so they continue, they're kind of still kind of like the first person. They keep paying for the rate hikes, but at least they looked into it. And then, you know, so they might decide to like look into it and actually do something if their situation gets worse over time with like the rates continuing to increase, and just not have any control over that. They don't have any say or any kind of agreement over how much the rates are increased. The third type of person is the person that actually gets something, but they compromise on the overall long-term reliability, by looking for something that has a lower price. Because what we often find is people, they just not really aware like what the differences are. They just looking at trying to get something to optimize on price because they think that's like a good deal. But what ends up happening is they're comparing just what the equipment of what the specifications of the equipment that's included, how many panels, how much battery storage is included. But what they don't look at really is they don't really do any due diligence on the company itself, how much after sales support it has been received by customers, whether there have been any complaints of lack of that, what the long-term reliability looks like. Have there been any customers complaining of systems failing over time, like within the warranty period, or how does the company deal with it when there are complaints? Are they proactive, or are they just not answering calls at all? So those kinds of things, and what the installation quality is like as well. Like, does the cabling look like a dog's breakfast or a spaghetti dinner, where it's just like dangling all over the place without any conduits to protect the cables? And so what that can lead to is water ingress into components, and UV exposure, which can damage the electrical circuitry over time and cause it to malfunction. So issues like that, and just generally there can be a lot of issues with non-compliant installations with companies that are cutting corners on costs to get a lower price, but often they use subcontractors instead of in-house installers, and so there's less accountability over what happens when something goes wrong. And yeah, so there's issues like that. And and overall that leads to less savings over the long term, because the system might work for a month, for 6 months, for a year, for 5 years. Even if it's a cheap system, but the real acid test is after 8, 10, 15 years, or out to 15 years, because that's what you typically expect for the lifespan to be. That if it's a low quality installation, or the quality of the equipment is lower, then that can mean that the reliability can end up risk being a shorter period of time. So that leads to what? leads to less electricity savings, because once the system stops working, then you have to rent your electricity unless you pay to get it replaced, which costs more because you can't claim the federal battery rebate a second time. And then the fourth type of person we speak with is the people that we actually help, that are looking for something that's high quality, that's reliable, that has the right amount of after-sales support priced in, so that way they can, if something actually goes wrong, which is less likely because the overall quality of the equipment and installation is higher, because we screen out companies that just have the cheapest gear on the market, and we work with in-house installers, so we avoid lower quality product and installation issues. Like, we avoid those issues from happening, so that way they can really have some more certainty about the long-term reliability of actually working properly for the long term. And if there are, in the less likely event that there are any issues, they actually have someone to go to. And because we're not just running on thin margins, like can often be the case with companies that are quoting cheap systems, it means we actually have enough resources for the long term to support ourselves as a business. And what that means to you is that you can have more certainty about us being around for the long term to continue to support you in case something goes wrong. Because if something does go wrong and the company's gone out of business, what that means to you is that it can be more complicated getting support for the warranty directly from the manufacturer if they're still in business. And that's also a higher risk for cheaper manufacturers, because they're often cutting corners on the reliability, which leads to more complaints and can cause the business to go out of business over time because of getting a bad reputation. So I guess the question to you would be, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of person that continues to rent your electricity for the rest of your life like you would with renting a home? Or do you want to be the kind of person that is able to get ahead with owning your electricity? Do you want to be the person that shops around but never actually does anything? Do you want to be the kind of person that gets something cheap but then it ends up running into more issues and has a worse overall experience with potentially less savings over the lifetime of the system? Or do you want to be the kind of person that gets a high quality system that adds to the look and feel of the home, that functions well, and really has that you can have more certainty it's going to be, working for the long term, so that you can actually get the results that you're looking for with having more freedom and control and security when it comes to how you get your electricity? So if you're the kind of person that's looking for something that's reliable for the long term, then feel free to contact me or our company, Electrifying Australia, and we can see how we can help you.